The morning sun cast golden light across the royal gardens of Gentari Prime. Princess Valestra walked along the stone path, her silver robes flowing behind her. She was looking for her husband, and she knew exactly where he would be. Jake Morrison knelt beside a bed of blue flowers, his hands covered in dark soil. His brown eyes were warm and gentle, just like they had been on the day they married 6 months ago. "Good morning," he said softly. He stood up and brushed the dirt from his hands. "I was just planting these new seeds from the eastern province." The gardener said, "They bloom in winter." Valestra felt her heart warm. When her father, Emperor Thrain, had first suggested marriage to a human as part of the peace treaty, she had been nervous. Humans were strange creatures from a distant world called Earth. He was nothing like the old stories about humans. The ancient records spoke of a violent species, always fighting and destroying. But those stories were thousands of years old. Clearly, humans had evolved beyond such primitive behavior. Jake spent his days in the palace gardens, reading philosophy books and writing poetry. He meditated for hours each morning, sitting so still that birds would land on his shoulders. He never raised his voice, never showed anger, never displayed anything but calm kindness to everyone he met. "The council meeting is in an hour," Valestra reminded him. "Father wants to discuss the new trade routes with the northern systems." Jake nodded. "I'll clean up and join you." He touched her hand gently before heading toward the palace. Valestra watched him go. Her friend, Lady Mira, had been right. Humans were a peaceful people now, fully civilized and ready to join the greater galactic community. Earth had sent only the best of their kind as ambassadors and diplomats. In the palace courtyard, 2 humans stood guard near the main entrance. Lieutenant Sophie Clark and Sergeant Ben Hayes were part of Jake's security detail. They wore simple blue uniforms and smiled politely at anyone who passed by. Most Gentari assumed they were merely ceremonial. Like the decorative guards at ancient temples, Sophie was a tall woman with short blonde hair and a friendly face. Ben was broader, with dark skin and quiet eyes. They never caused any trouble, never interfered with palace life. They were just there, always watching, always calm. The council meeting went as it always did. The elder members discussed trade agreements and cultural exchanges. They debated the proper way to greet the new ambassador from the Korthon system. Everything was orderly, peaceful, exactly as it had been for 10,000 years. Emperor Thrain sat on his golden throne, his silver beard reaching his chest. He smiled often during the meeting, pleased with how well the alliance with Earth was working. Humans, he thought, had finally learned the ways of true civilization. That evening, Valestra found Jake in the library. He was reading an old book of Gentari wisdom, making notes in the margins. She sat beside him on the cushioned bench. "Do you miss Earth?" she asked. Jake looked up from his book. "Sometimes," he admitted. "I miss the oceans. Earth has vast oceans, bigger than any on Gentari Prime, but I'm happy here. With you." She leaned against his shoulder. "I'm glad the war years are behind your people. It must have been terrible. All that fighting and violence." Something flickered in Jake's eyes, but it was gone so quickly that Valestra thought she had imagined it. "Yes," he said quietly. "Terrible. Terrible." 3 days later, everything changed. The warning came during breakfast. A junior council member rushed into the dining hall, his face pale with fear. "Your Majesty," he gasped. "Ships, unknown ships at the edge of our territory." Emperor Thrain set down his cup calmly. "Unknown ships? Perhaps travelers seeking aid. Send a diplomatic envoy to greet them." "We already did, Your Majesty, 2 days ago." "And?" The council members' hands shook. "They haven't returned. We've lost contact with 3 outer colonies. The last transmission was..." He paused, struggling to speak. Screaming. Just screaming. The council gathered within the hour. Valestra sat beside her father, while Jake stood quietly in the back of the room. The main view screen showed images from long-range sensors. Thousands of black ships, moving like insects through space. An old scholar stood up, his voice trembling. The Kfroth swarm. From the ancient warnings, we thought they were myths. Nothing is a myth, another council member said. We simply haven't encountered them in recorded history. We must send more envoys. Open communication. Find common ground. Jake stepped forward. His voice was still gentle, but something in his tone made everyone turn to look at him. Your Majesty. With respect, I suggest immediate military mobilization. The room fell silent. Then, several council members began to laugh. Not cruel laughter, but confused, almost pitying laughter. Captain Morrison, Emperor Thrain said kindly, we have no military. The Zentari have not had armies for 10,000 years. We resolve all conflicts through peaceful dialogue and meditation. These creatures don't want dialogue, Jake said. His jaw was tight. Valestra noticed. She had never seen him look like this. They want to consume everything in their path. All beings can be reasoned with, the Emperor insisted. We will send our best mediators. We will find harmony. Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he bowed his head. But that night, Valestra couldn't sleep. She walked through the palace halls and heard voices from the communication room. The door was slightly open. She peered inside and saw Jake standing before a holographic display, speaking in quick, clipped sentences. Third Fleet, this is Morrison. I need a status report on your position. His voice was different. Hard. Nothing like the soft-spoken man who planted flowers. A woman's voice crackled through the speaker. Captain, we're 3 systems away. Is this official? Not yet. But stand by. Things are about to get bad here. Understood. Third Fleet is ready when you give the word. Jake ended the transmission and turned. He saw Valestra in the doorway. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Jake, she whispered. What was that? He walked toward her, and his expression softened. Just a precaution, Val. I'm sure your father is right. I'm sure the Quavroth will listen to reason. But his eyes said something different. His eyes said he was preparing for war. Valestra wanted to ask more questions. But Jake gently guided her back to their quarters. He held her that night. But she could feel the tension in his body. The calmness he usually carried was gone, replaced by something coiled and waiting. 2 days later, the mediators returned. Or rather, their ship returned, drifting dead in space. The Quavroth had sent it back with a message carved into the hull in 7 languages. We consume, you are food, prepare to die. The outer colonies went dark one by one. 2 billion Gentari disappeared in 6 hours. The council watched the reports in stunned silence, unable to process what was happening. Violence on this scale was beyond their understanding. Valestra ran to find Jake. She needed his gentle words, his calm presence. But when she found him in their quarters, the man standing there was someone she had never met before. He was wearing black armor that looked like it had been made for killing. Sophie and Ben stood beside him, equally transformed, checking weapons that hummed with barely contained power. Jake turned to look at her, and Valestra felt a chill run down her spine. This was not the man who planted flowers. Valestra stood frozen in the doorway. Her husband looked like a stranger. The black armor covered him from neck to feet, fitted perfectly to his body. Strange symbols marked the chest plate. Weapons she didn't recognize hung from his belt. Jake? Her voice came out as a whisper. He looked at her, and for just a moment, his eyes softened. I'm sorry you have to see this, Val. I really hoped you never would. Sophie checked her rifle one more time. The metallic click echoing in the room. Ben strapped another knife to his boot. They moved with practiced efficiency, like they had done this 1,000 times before. See what? Valestra asked. What is all this? Jake walked over to her slowly. He reached out to touch her face, but stopped when he saw her flinch. He lowered his hand. Val, I need to speak with your father. Right now. Will you take me to him? She nodded, unable to find words. The Emperor was in the war room. Except the Gentari didn't call it that because they had never had wars. They called it the Crisis Management Center. The council members stood around a large table, watching holographic images of the Kavrath fleet advancing through their territory. Your Majesty, Jake said as he entered. Every head turned to stare at him. The council members gasped at his appearance. Emperor Thrain stood up slowly. Captain Morrison, what is the meaning of this? Costume? It's not a costume, Jake said. His voice was respectful but firm. Your Majesty, I've contacted Earth's Third Fleet. They're 3 systems away. They can be here in 18 hours if you give permission. Permission for what? The Emperor asked. To defend Gentari Prime. To stop the Kvrath. One of the elder council members stepped forward. Young man, we appreciate your concern, but violence is not the answer. We have sent another group of mediators. Surely the Kavrath will understand that we mean them no harm. Jake's jaw tightened. Valestra saw a muscle twitch in his cheek. They've already killed 2 billion of your people. They're not interested in peace. All beings are interested in peace, the Emperor said gently. It is the natural state of intelligent life. We simply need to help them see this truth. No, Jake said. The word came out harder than before. No. That's not true. Some beings only understand strength. The Kavrath are a parasitic species. They consume civilizations. It's what they do. It's all they do. The room fell silent. No one knew what to say. The Gentari had built their entire society on the belief that all conflicts could be resolved peacefully. The idea that some beings couldn't be reasoned with was foreign to them. We must try, the Emperor finally said. We must always try. Peace. First. Jake took a deep breath. Valestra could see him struggling to stay calm. Your Majesty, I respect your beliefs. But please, let Earth's fleet stand by. Just in case. If your mediators succeed, wonderful. But if they don't, Captain Morrison. The Emperor interrupted, his voice growing cold. I will not have war machines in orbit around my planet. I will not send the message to the galaxy that the Zentari have abandoned 10,000 years of peace. The answer is no. No. Jake stared at the Emperor for a long moment, then he bowed his head. As you wish. Your Majesty. He turned and walked out of the room. Valestra followed him into the hallway. Jake, wait. He stopped but didn't turn around. His shoulders were tense under the black armor. What's happening to you? She asked. You're scaring me. Jake turned slowly. The gentleness was back in his eyes, but underneath it, Valestra could see something else. Something dark and dangerous. I'm trying to save your people, Val. That's all I've ever wanted to do. By bringing warships, by threatening violence, by being prepared for what's coming. He reached out and took her hand. Val, there are things about Earth you don't know. Things about humans. We're not what you think we are. What do you mean? Before he could answer, an alarm blared through the palace. Red lights flashed along the corridors. A voice came over the intercom. Panicked and shaking. Emergency. The second mediator ship has been destroyed. Kvrath forces are entering the inner system. All citizens must take shelter immediately. Jake's hand tightened on hers. It's starting. The next few hours were chaos. The Gentari had no weapons, no defenses, no way to fight back. They had shields around the major cities, but those were designed to protect against natural disasters, not military attacks. Valestra stayed in the palace command center with her father. They watched the screens as Kvrath ships poured into the system like a swarm of black locusts, thousands upon thousands of them, blotting out the stars. Jake stood in the corner of the room, silent and still. Sophie and Ben flanked him. All three of them watched the screens with expressions that Valestra couldn't read. "They're heading for the agricultural colonies," one of the technicians reported. "Population centers. They're targeting civilians." Emperor Thrane's face went pale. "Send them a message. Tell them we surrender. Tell them they can have whatever they want," the technician tried. The Kvrath response came seconds later. It was a video transmission showing the interior of one of the agricultural colonies. Valestra turned away, but she couldn't unsee it. The Kvrath were feeding. On people. On children. Someone in the command center screamed. Another person started crying. The Gentari had never experienced war, had never seen true violence. They didn't have the mental framework to process what they were witnessing. Jake moved then. He walked to the main console and pressed several buttons. A communication channel opened. "Third Fleet. This is Captain Morrison. Authorization code Delta 79er. I'm requesting immediate emergency intervention under the Sentinel Protocol." A woman's voice answered. "Captain Morrison." Jake looked at the Emperor. "Your Majesty, please, let us help you." Emperor Thrane stared at the screens. His people were dying. Everything he believed was crumbling around him. I don't know. Violence leads to more violence. If we fight them, we become like them." "No," Jake said firmly. "If you fight them, you survive." Another colony went dark. 300 million people gone in an instant. The Emperor closed his eyes. Tears ran down his face. "I cannot authorize military action. It goes against everything we are." Jake's expression didn't change. But Valestra saw something die in his eyes. Some last hope that this could be resolved peacefully. He turned back to the communication channel. "Admiral Grant, the Gentari government has not authorized intervention." "Understood, Captain. We'll hold position at the system's edge." "I'm sorry." Jake ended the transmission. He looked at Valestra one more time, and she saw an apology in his eyes. Then he walked out of the command center. Sophie and Ben followed him without a word. Valestra ran after them. "Jake, where are you going?" He stopped in the corridor. When he turned to face her, the gentle gardener was completely gone. In his place was someone hard and cold and dangerous. "Your father won't authorize Earth to defend Gentari Prime," he said quietly. "But he can't stop me from defending my wife." "What does that mean?" Jake reached up and touched her face, his armored glove gentle against her skin. "It means I'm going to do what humans do best. And Val, I need you to promise me something." "What?" "When this is over, when you see what I really am, try to remember that I love you. That everything I'm about to do, I'm doing to keep you safe." Before she could respond, another alarm sounded. This one was different. More urgent. A voice screamed over the intercom. "Kvrath forces have breached the planetary shields. Drop pods detected. They're landing in the capital city. They're here." Jake's expression became ice. He pulled a small device from his belt and pressed it. "Sophie, Ben. Full combat deployment. Protect the palace. Kill anything that's not Gentari or human." "Copy that." Sophie's voice came through his earpiece. Jake looked at Valestra one last time. "Get to the safe room. Lock the door. Don't come out until I come for you." "Jake?" But he was already running down the corridor, moving faster than she had ever seen him move. Sophie and Ben appeared from side passages, weapons ready. The three of them disappeared around a corner, and Valestra was left standing alone. Above her, through the palace's glass ceiling, she could see Kvrath pods falling from the sky like black rain. The first Kvrath warrior smashed through a palace window 30 seconds later. It was massive, 10 feet tall with 6 legs and claws like curved swords. Its body was covered in black armor-like shells. Multiple eyes glowed red in the dim light. Palace guards screamed and ran. They had no weapons, no training for this. The Kvrath moved through them like a blade through water, cutting down anyone in its path. Then Jake appeared. Valestra had ducked behind a pillar when the window broke. She watched, unable to look away, as her husband moved through the corridor like death itself. He didn't run. He walked with purpose, steady and calm. The Kroth saw him and charged. Its claws could tear through steel. Its mandibles dripped with acid. It had killed hundreds of beings in its lifetime. It died in 3 seconds. Jake moved so fast that Valestra's eyes couldn't track it. One moment he was walking. The next moment he was behind the Kroth, and the creature's head was rolling across the floor. A blade in Jake's hand glowed with blue energy, already clean of blood. Another Kroth came through the window. Then another. Jake killed them both before they took 2 steps. His movements were precise, efficient, almost beautiful. In their deadliness, there was no wasted motion, no hesitation. Sophie's voice crackled through his earpiece. East wing is clear. 17 hostiles down. West wing secure, Ben reported. 23 down, Jake responded without taking his eyes off the corridor. North entrance is compromised. Sealing it now. He pressed something on his wrist, and heavy metal doors slammed shut throughout the palace. Valestra realized she was seeing Earth's security protocols for the first time. The palace had been rigged with defensive systems all along. Jake and his team had installed them months ago, quietly, without anyone noticing. The Zentari had thought they were simple decorations. Val. Jake's voice made her jump. He was standing right beside her, though she hadn't seen him move. Safe room. Now. I can't just hide while people are dying. His expression softened for just a moment. You're not hiding. You're surviving. That's what matters. He touched her shoulder gently, and then he was gone again, running toward sounds of combat, deeper in the palace. Valestra didn't go to the safe room. Instead, she ran to the command center. Her father needed to see this, needed to understand what was happening. The command center was chaos. Technicians shouted over each other. Screens showed Krav-Roth forces landing all over the capital city. Thousands of them. Maybe tens of thousands. The Zentari police tried to stop them with nothing but harsh words and peaceful intentions. They died in droves. Emperor Thrain sat in his chair, staring at the screens in horror. This can't be happening. This can't be real. Father, Valestra said. Jake and his team are fighting them. They're protecting the palace. 3 humans against thousands? The Emperor shook his head. It's hopeless. Then the main screen changed. A new image appeared. A human woman's face filled the display. She had short gray hair and a scar running down her left cheek. Her eyes were hard as stone. This is Admiral Lisa Grant of Earth's 3rd Fleet, she said. Her voice was cold and professional. Emperor Thrain, I'm formally requesting permission to engage hostile forces in defense of Zentari Prime. The Emperor stood up slowly. Admiral, I appreciate your offer, but I cannot authorize violence. It goes against everything my people believe. Your Majesty, with respect, your people are dying right now. Every second you delay, more of them die. Violence only breeds more violence. Admiral Grant's expression didn't change. Sir, the Kovroth don't care about your philosophy. They're going to consume every living thing on your planet unless someone stops them. Let us be that someone. The Emperor looked around the room. Every face showed fear, confusion, desperation. These were people who had never known war, never imagined they would need to make such a choice. If I say yes, the Emperor said quietly, if I authorize military action, the Zentari become just another violent species. We lose what makes us special. If you say no, Admiral Grant replied, the Zentari become extinct. You choose which matters more. The silence in the room was heavy. Outside, screams echoed through the palace halls. Kovroth warriors were getting closer to the command center despite Jake's efforts. Emperor Thrain closed his eyes. When he opened them again, something had broken inside him. "Do what you must, Admiral." "Copy that, Your Majesty." Third Fleet engaging now. The screen changed to show the space above Gentari Prime. Valestra watched as 12 massive ships appeared from behind the planet's moon. They had been hiding there, waiting. Earth's Third Fleet had been in position the entire time. The fleet moved into formation with practiced precision. Smaller ships launched from the carriers, hundreds of them, like silver birds of prey. They dove toward the Caverath swarm without hesitation. What happened next would be burned into Valestra's memory forever. Earth's weapons were nothing like Gentari technology. Railguns fired metal slugs at incredible speeds, turning Caverath ships into clouds of debris. Missiles streaked through space, each one finding its target with perfect accuracy. Laser batteries cut through armor like paper, but it wasn't the technology that shocked Valestra. It was the fury behind it. The human pilots didn't fight like machines. They fought with rage, with purpose, with a controlled violence that was terrifying to witness. A pilot named Danny Crawford destroyed 40 Caverath fighters in 15 minutes. His communication channel was open, and Valestra could hear him laughing as he killed. "That's for Colony 7, he said as another Caverath ship exploded. "That's for the children you murdered. That's for thinking you could attack our friends and get away with it." Admiral Grant's voice cut through all channels, broadcasting to the Caverath fleet. "You made a mistake coming here. The Gentari are under Earth's protection. Every single one of you dies today. No survivors, no mercy. We will hunt you to the edge of the galaxy and beyond." The Caverath tried to retreat. Earth's fleet didn't let them. They pursued, killed, destroyed. The space around Gentari Prime became a graveyard. On the ground, Jake received a communication. Valestra was close enough to hear it through his earpiece. "Captain Morrison, this is Admiral Grant. Ground teams are inbound. Hold position for 3 minutes." "Copy that," Jake responded. "Palace is secure. We've eliminated 47 hostiles. No Gentari casualties. In the protected zones." 3 minutes later, dropships landed in the palace courtyard. Human soldiers poured out, hundreds of them. They wore the same black armor as Jake. They carried weapons that hummed with deadly power. They moved like wolves, coordinated and lethal. The Caverath forces in the capital city lasted another 20 minutes. Valestra watched it all from the command center. The screens showed human soldiers clearing streets, protecting Gentari civilians, killing Caverath with brutal efficiency. These weren't the gentle diplomats Earth had sent to the peace talks. These were warriors, and they were very good at their job. By nightfall, the capital city was clear. The Caverath forces on the planet were either dead or trapped in isolated pockets, being systematically eliminated. In space, the battle continued. The Caverath had brought 3,000 ships. Earth's Third Fleet numbered less than 60, but the humans fought with a coordination and ferocity that made up for their smaller numbers. Valestra found Jake in the palace gardens. He was sitting on a stone bench, cleaning blood from his armor. Bodies of Caverath warriors lay scattered among the flowers he had planted. The contrast was jarring. She sat down beside him. Neither spoke for a long moment. "You knew," she finally said. "You knew they were coming." "I suspected." "The Caverath follow a pattern. They hit civilizations that can't defend themselves." Jake looked at her. "I'm sorry. I lied to you. About who I am." Jake looked at what I am. "What are you, Jake?" He was quiet, choosing his words carefully. "Earth's diplomatic corps are all former special forces. We're soldiers first. We learn poetry and philosophy and gardening because those things make us better at our jobs. But underneath it all, we're what we've always been. Killers," Valestra whispered. "Protectors," Jake corrected. "There's a difference. We don't kill because we enjoy it. We kill because sometimes it's the only way to protect innocent people." Valestra looked at the dead Caverath around them. You did enjoy it, though. I saw your face when you were fighting. You smiled. Jake didn't deny it. Yes. Because every Krath I killed was one that couldn't hurt you. That made me happy. 5. In the command center, Emperor Thrain watched Admiral Grant's face on the screen. The battle in space was turning. The Krath fleet was breaking apart, trying desperately to escape. Admiral, the Emperor said, the Krath are retreating. You've won. Please, let them go. Admiral Grant's expression was carved from ice. No, Your Majesty. But the threat is over. There's no need for more killing. With respect, sir, you're wrong. If we let them escape, they'll rebuild. They'll attack someone else, maybe even come back here in a few years. She leaned closer to the camera. The Krath chose to be predators. They chose to hunt species that couldn't fight back. Today they learn what happens when they pick the wrong prey. Today the predators become the hunted. The Emperor watched helplessly as Earth's fleet pursued the fleeing Kavrath ships. Not a single one escaped. The battle for Gentari Prime lasted 18 hours. For the Gentari people who had never witnessed war, it felt like 18 years. Valestra stayed in the palace, watching everything unfold on the command center screens. Her father sat beside her, his face growing older with each passing hour. The other council members had fallen silent. There was nothing left to say. Earth's Third Fleet fought like nothing the Gentari had ever imagined. The human ships moved through space with deadly grace, their weapons firing in coordinated patterns that turned the Krath swarm into expanding clouds of debris. But the Krath had numbers on their side. For every ship the humans destroyed, 2 more appeared. The Krath kept coming, wave after wave, like they had infinite resources. Admiral Grant's flagship, the Valiant, took heavy fire. Valestra watched the damage reports scroll across the screen. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12. Weapons systems at 60%. Shields failing. Admiral, recommend immediate withdrawal, one of Grant's officers said over the open channel. We can't win this. Lieutenant Chen, how long have you served on this ship? Admiral Grant's voice was steady, calm. 6 years, ma'am. In those 6 years, have you ever seen the Valiant run from a fight? A pause. No, ma'am. Then why would we start now? All weapons. Focus fire on their command carrier. I want that thing dead in the next 5 minutes. The Valiant surged forward, straight into the heart of the Krath fleet. The other human ships followed without question. Valestra realized she was watching people choose to die for strangers. Earth's Third Fleet was willing to sacrifice themselves for a planet that wasn't even their home. On the ground, the fighting was just as intense. Krath warriors had landed in every major city across Gentari Prime. Human soldiers fought them, street by street, building by building. Valestra watched footage from cameras throughout the capital. She saw a human named Corporal Ryan Wells hold a doorway alone for 20 minutes, protecting 30 Gentari children who had taken shelter in a school. He killed 18 Kavrath before reinforcements arrived. When they pulled him out, he had 7 broken bones and was still trying to stand up to keep fighting. She saw Lieutenant Sophie Clark lead a team to rescue trapped civilians from a collapsed building. Quaff forces surrounded them. Sophie's team fought for 2 hours, outnumbered 5-1, until every civilian was safely evacuated. 3 of her soldiers didn't make it out. She saw Sergeant Ben Hayes carry an injured Gentari child through active combat zones, his body shielding the child from enemy fire. He took 4 hits to his armor but never stopped moving until the child was safe with medics. And she saw Jake. Her husband moved through the palace like a ghost, appearing wherever the Kavrath tried to break through. He seemed to be everywhere at once, protecting the royal family, the council members, anyone who couldn't protect themselves. A Quaff warrior nearly twice his size cornered 3 Gentari servants in the kitchen. Jake arrived before it could strike. Valestra watched the security footage later. The fight lasted 8 seconds. Jake didn't just kill the Quavrath. He destroyed it with such fury that the servants couldn't stop shaking even after he had assured them they were safe. Your Majesty, a technician called out. We're getting reports from the outer colonies, the ones the Kvrath attacked first. Emperor Thrain looked up. What kind of reports? Survivors, sir. Human teams found survivors hidden in underground shelters. They're evacuating them now. More screens lit up with images. Human soldiers carrying Gentari children to safety. Human medics treating wounded civilians. Human engineers repairing damaged life support systems. Everywhere the Kvrath had struck, Earth's forces were there, saving who they could, fighting to protect the rest. Valestra felt tears on her face. She had been so wrong about humans. They weren't gentle because they had evolved beyond violence. They were gentle because they chose to be, despite being so very good at violence. In space, the tide of battle slowly began to turn. The Kvrath command carrier exploded in a brilliant flash, destroyed by concentrated fire from the Valiant and 3 destroyer escorts. The Kvrath fleet fell into chaos without leadership. Admiral Grant didn't let up. All ships, pursue and destroy. I want a full sweep of the system. Any Kvrath vessel that's still operational becomes a priority target. One of her officers hesitated. Ma'am, some of their ships are trying to surrender. The Kvrath don't take prisoners, Lieutenant. They don't show mercy. They consume everything they touch. Admiral Grant's voice grew colder. Grew. Admiral. Grant's. Grew. They made their choice when they attacked a peaceful civilization. Now, they live with the consequences. No quarter. No survivors. The hunt continued. Human fighters chased down fleeing Kvrath ships, destroying them before they could escape to hyperspace. It was methodical, brutal, and absolutely thorough. Valestra watched a pilot named Captain Nicole Ford pursue a damaged Kvrath cruiser. The enemy ship was clearly trying to run, its engines sputtering. Ford could have let it go. Instead, she lined up her shot with perfect precision and ended it. This is for the 2 billion you murdered, Ford said over the open channel. Remember that, when you're dying, you did this to yourselves. On the palace balcony, Jake stood watch as the sun rose over the capital city. Valestra found him there, still in his blood-stained armor. Smoke rose from fires throughout the city. Bodies of Kvrath warriors littered the streets. Human soldiers moved among them, checking for survivors, helping wounded Gentari civilians. Is it over? Valestra asked. Jake shook his head. Not yet. Admiral Grant is tracking the last of their fleet. There's a nest world 3 systems from here, the Kvrath main breeding ground. He looked at her. She's going to destroy it. All of it? Every last one. The Kvrath won't get a chance to rebuild, won't get a chance to do this to anyone else. Jake's voice was quiet but firm. That's how humans fight, Val. We don't just win battles. We end threats. Permanently. Emperor Thrain appeared in the doorway behind them. He looked like he had aged 20 years overnight. Captain Morrison, I need to speak with you. Jake turned and bowed respectfully. Your Majesty. Our Majesty. Your Majesty. Your Majesty. I've been watching the battle reports. Your people have taken heavy casualties protecting mine. 30% of your fleet is damaged or destroyed. Hundreds of your soldiers are wounded. Some have died. The Emperor's voice cracked. They died for people they barely knew. For a civilization that refused to fight alongside them. They died protecting the innocent. Jake said simply. That's what we do. Why? What do you gain from this? Jake looked back out at the city. We gain allies. Friends. Partners who will remember that when they needed help, Earth was there. He paused. And we prevent another tragedy. The Kvrath would have consumed your entire civilization, then moved on to the next one. By stopping them here, we save billions of lives, maybe trillions. Maybe trillions. The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. I was wrong about your people, about violence, About everything. You weren't wrong, Your Majesty. Peace is the goal. It should always be the goal. Jake turned to face him. But sometimes, to preserve peace, you need people willing to fight, to get their hands dirty so others can stay clean. In space, Admiral Grant's fleet reached the Kavrath Nest world. It was a dark planet, covered in organic structures, where the Kavrath bred and grew. Billions of them lived there, including young ones, non-combatants. The entire species infrastructure. Admiral Grant didn't hesitate. All ships, weapons free, planetary bombardment, pattern delta, sterilize the surface. Her officers looked at each other. One spoke up carefully. Ma'am, there are civilian Kavrath down there. Young ones. The Kavrath don't have civilians, Commander. They're all part of the swarm. Every single one would grow up to hunt and kill and consume. She looked at the planet on her main screen. They made their species into a plague. We're the cure. Fire when ready. The bombardment began. Missiles streaked down from orbit, each one carrying enough firepower to level a city. The Kavrath tried to fight back, but their planetary defenses were designed to stop other Kavrath, not human weapons. It took 4 hours to completely sterilize the planet. When it was done, nothing lived on the surface. The Kavrath species was functionally extinct. A few scattered groups might exist in distant systems, but never again would they threaten entire civilizations. Admiral Grant broadcast on all frequencies, sending a message to every species in the galaxy that might be listening. This is Admiral Lisa Grant of Earth's Third Fleet. Let it be known that the Kavrath swarm has been eliminated. They attacked a peaceful civilization under Earth's protection. This was their punishment. Let it also be known that the Zentari people are now formally allied with humanity. Any species that threatens them will answer to us. Well, she paused, and her next words were ice cold. We are humanity. We can be your greatest friends or your worst nightmare. The choice is yours. Choose wisely. We choose wisely. We choose wisely. We. Back on Gentari Prime, Valestra stood with Jake on the balcony as the last Kavrath ships were destroyed in orbit. Human fighters did victory rolls above the palace, their pilots celebrating. But below, on the ground, human soldiers were helping rebuild, treating wounded, comforting the traumatized. You're monsters, Valestra whispered. But she didn't pull away when Jake took her hand. Yes, he agreed. When we need to be. 3 weeks passed before life on Gentari Prime began to feel normal again. The fires were extinguished. The bodies were removed. The damaged buildings were being rebuilt. But the scars remained, both physical and psychological. The Gentari people walked through their cities differently now. They looked at the sky with fear, wondering if more threats lurked among the stars. 10,000 years of peace had ended in 18 hours of war. The change was too sudden, too violent, for many to process. Valestra found Jake in the palace gardens again. He was back to planting flowers, his hands covered in dirt just like before. But everything was different now. She couldn't look at those hands without remembering what they had done, what they were capable of. The blue flowers died, Jake said without looking up. The Kavrath trampled them during the attack. I'm planting new ones. She sat on the stone bench nearby. Will they grow? Eventually. Things always grow back. It just takes time. He finally looked at her. Are you here to ask me to leave? Should I? Jake was quiet for a moment. He set down his gardening tools and wiped his hands on a cloth. I would understand if you did. I know I'm not the man you thought you married. No. Valestra agreed. You're not. The man I married was gentle and kind. He wrote poetry and meditated in the mornings. He never raised his voice. I'm still that man. Are you? I watched you kill, Jake. I watched you destroy living beings with your bare hands. You smiled while you did it. Jake looked down at his hands. They were clean now. But Valestra knew what they had done. I smiled because I was protecting you. Every Kroth I killed was one that couldn't hurt you. Couldn't hurt your people. That made me happy. Does that make me a monster? I don't know, maybe. She paused. My father wants to dissolve our alliance with Earth. The Council is terrified of your species now. They've seen what humans can do. What you're willing to do. I know, Admiral Grant told me. She's preparing the fleet to leave. Are you leaving too? Jake looked at her with those brown eyes she had fallen in love with. But now she saw the steel behind them, the danger, the controlled fury that was always there, always waiting. Do you want me to? Valestra had been asking herself that question for 3 weeks. She had barely slept, replaying everything in her mind. The violence, the killing, the casual efficiency with which Jake and his people had destroyed an entire species. But she also remembered the Zentari children he had saved, the civilians he had protected, the way he had stood between her and certain death without hesitation. I'm afraid of you, she admitted. I'm afraid of what you are, what you can become. Good, Jake said quietly. You should be. Fear keeps you cautious, keeps you safe. But I'm not afraid you'll hurt me. I'm afraid of what it means that you can hurt others so easily. Jake stood up and moved to sit beside her on the bench. He didn't touch her, giving her space. Val, I need to tell you something about Earth. About humans. We didn't evolve beyond violence. We got too good at it. So good that we almost destroyed ourselves. What do you mean? Centuries ago, we had wars that killed billions. We built weapons that could turn entire planets into ash. We came very close to extinction. He looked up at the sky. That's when we changed. Not because we couldn't fight anymore, but because we chose not to. We created rules, protocols, ethics. We decided that our capacity for violence would only be used to protect, never to conquer. But you wiped out the Kvrath. Their entire species. Yes. Because they gave us no choice. The Kvrath were pure predators. They couldn't be reasoned with, couldn't be changed. They would keep hunting, keep killing, until someone stopped them permanently. Jake turned to look at her. I'm not sorry for what we did. But I am sorry you had to see it. Sorry you had to learn this truth about humans. Valestra was quiet, thinking. Finally, she asked the question that had been haunting her. Would you do it again? If another threat came? Without hesitation. Even if I asked you not to? Jake's expression softened. Val, I would do anything for you. But I won't watch innocent people die when I have the power to save them. That's not who I am. That's not who any human is. In the palace, Emperor Thrain was meeting with his council. The discussion had been going on for hours. Some wanted to immediately end the alliance with Earth. Others argued that they needed human protection now more than ever. Lady Mira spoke up, her voice shaking. We invited monsters into our home. We married our princess to one of them. How can we trust Earth now? Because they saved us. Another council member countered. Where were our meditation techniques when the Kvrath attacked? Where was our philosophy when our people were dying? Earth's monsters protected us when our peace couldn't. The Emperor raised his hand for silence. I have made a decision. Everyone turned to look at him. We will not dissolve the alliance with Earth. Instead, we will formalize it. Create something new. Your Majesty, please reconsider, Lady Mira begged. Humans are dangerous. Humans are dangerous. The Emperor agreed. That's exactly why we need them. He stood up, addressing the entire council. For 10,000 years, we believed peace was the natural state of the universe. We were wrong. The universe is not peaceful. It's full of threats we never imagined, because we were sheltered, protected by our isolation. He walked to the window, looking out at the city. Human soldiers still patrolled the streets, helping with reconstruction. Humans didn't destroy us. They saved us. Yes, they're capable of terrible violence. but they use that violence to protect those who can't protect themselves. That's the kind of ally we need, the council murmured, uncertain. The Emperor continued. We will propose a new agreement, the Sentinel Pact. The Gentari will provide culture, wisdom, diplomacy. Earth will provide protection. Together, we create something stronger than either species alone. That evening, Valestra found Jake packing his belongings. Her heart sank. You're leaving. Your father's meeting with Admiral Grant tomorrow. I thought it would be easier if I wasn't here. He's not dissolving the alliance. He's expanding it. Jake stopped packing. What? Valestra explained the Sentinel Pact. As she spoke, she watched Jake's expression change from resignation to surprise to something that might have been hope. Your father wants to formalize the alliance? After everything he saw? Because of everything he saw. He understands now. The universe isn't the peaceful place we thought it was. We need. She paused, choosing her words carefully. We need dangerous friends. Jake sat down slowly. And you? What do you want? Valestra moved to stand in front of him. I want to understand you. The real you. Not the gentle gardener you pretended to be. I wasn't pretending. That's part of who I am. But it's not all of you. No, it's not. Jake looked up at her. I'm a soldier, Val. I've killed people. Lots of people. I'm good at it. Scarily good at it. But I'm also a man who loves gardens and poetry and philosophy. Both things are true. Valestra reached out and took his hand. The same hand that had killed to protect her. Teach me. Help me understand how someone can be both. Over the next weeks, Jake did exactly that. He showed her the human philosophy of the warrior poet. The belief that those capable of violence must also understand beauty, must cultivate gentleness, must know what they're protecting. She watched him train in the mornings, moving through combat forms with deadly precision. Then, she watched him meditate in the afternoons, achieving perfect stillness. Both were forms of discipline. Both required dedication. Admiral Grant stayed in orbit, overseeing repairs to her fleet. She met with Emperor Thrain regularly, working out the details of the Sentinel Pact. Valestra attended one of these meetings. Earth will station a permanent defense force in this system, Admiral Grant explained. Small, non-invasive, but ready to respond to any threat. We'll also train Gentari volunteers in basic self-defense. Train them to fight? The Emperor looked uncomfortable. Train them to survive, Admiral Grant corrected. Your Majesty, the Kavroth won't be the last threat you face. The galaxy is full of species that see peace as weakness. You don't need to become warriors, but you need to understand how warriors think. The Emperor nodded slowly. And, in return? In return, the Gentari help Earth with diplomacy. You're naturally gifted at negotiation, at understanding different perspectives. You can help us talk to species we might otherwise have to fight. It was a partnership built on mutual need and mutual respect. Neither species could do alone what they could do together. 3 months after the attack, Valestra and Jake stood on the palace balcony watching the sunset. The city below was healing. New buildings rose where old ones had fallen. Gentari children played in the parks, watched over by both Gentari parents and human guards. Do you regret it? Jake asked. Marrying me? Learning what humans really are? Valestra thought about it. Honestly thought about it. Sometimes I miss the innocence. Miss believing the universe was peaceful. She turned to look at him. But I don't regret you. You're terrifying, Jake Morrison. You and all of humanity. You're capable of destroying civilizations. But we choose not to. Exactly. That's what makes you different from the Kavroth. They were monsters because they had no choice. Humans are monsters by capability, but choose to be protectors instead. She smiled. That's actually more impressive than being naturally peaceful. Jake pulled her close. I love you, Val. Both the princess who loves peace and the woman who's learning to accept necessary violence. I love you too. Both the gardener and the warrior. Below them, Sophie and Ben walked patrol through the gardens. They had been promoted, given medals by both Earth and the Gentari government. They still smiled politely at everyone, still seemed ceremonial. But now the Gentari knew what those smiles hid. A new ambassador arrived from the Korthan Alliance the following week. He was nervous, constantly looking at the human soldiers stationed throughout the palace. During his first meeting with the Emperor, he couldn't stop staring at Jake, who stood quietly in the corner. Is it true? The ambassador finally asked. What they say about your husband, Princess Valestra? That he killed 300 Kavrath personally? Valestra smiled. Captain Morrison is very gentle. He spends his mornings in the garden. He writes poetry. He's wonderful with children. But the reports are accurate, Jake said calmly. I killed 347 Kavrath during the attack. I'd kill 3,000 more if they threatened this planet again. The ambassador went pale. Don't worry, Valestra added. You have nothing to fear from humans, as long as you respect peace. They're perfect allies. They'll trade with you, share knowledge, help you grow. She paused, her smile never fading. Just don't threaten anyone who can't defend themselves. That's when humans stop being benign. The ambassador left the meeting early and immediately sent a priority message to his homeworld. Asterisk. Maintain friendly relations with Earth at all costs. Do not provoke. Do not test. Do not assume their kindness means weakness. Asterisk. That night, Jake and Valestra walked through the gardens together. The blue flowers had started to bloom again, bringing color back to the spaces the Krath had trampled. They're beautiful, Valestra said. Things always grow back, Jake replied. Sometimes they grow back stronger. She knew he wasn't just talking about flowers. The Gentari had grown back stronger too. Still peaceful, still diplomatic, but no longer naive. They understood now that peace wasn't a gift the universe gave freely. It was something you had to protect, and humanity would help them protect it. Somewhere in orbit, Admiral Grant looked down at the planet and smiled. Earth had gained a valuable ally today. More than that, they had shown the galaxy what happened when you attacked humanity's friends. The message would spread. Other species would learn. And maybe, just maybe, the galaxy would become a more peaceful place, because everyone knew there were monsters out there who protected the innocent. Monsters like Jake Morrison, who planted flowers in the morning and destroyed civilizations by night, all to keep the people he loved safe. Valestra understood him now. Understood all of them. They were just very, very good at pretending, until the moment they needed to stop pretending. And that made them the most dangerous species in the galaxy.